Okay, good morning, dear friends. Welcome to the Friday shiurim. We're preparing for Parshas Vayeira. Very short day. Hayoim Katzav Amlach Meruba. The shiurim are dedicated. Liloi Nishmas. Malka Bastina. Tehei Nishmas Tatzura B'tzara Chaim. Okay, we have a lot to do today, and we have a short day. So here we go. So if you want to get the Marmakomis, please subscribe to our email. You could go to our site, office@RabbiDG.com, and you subscribe. You'll get the Marmakomis every Wednesday and Friday. Semuchim miyad. By the way, you could check out November 22nd to the 27th. We have a historic mission to Morocco, to the historic cities of Marrakesh, Fez, Rabat. Literally in these cities, tens of thousands of tzaddikim and mekubalim lived, and you could join us. Okay, so the first lima today is what we call Semuchim miyad. Maybe a couple of people have figured out the full meaning of Semuchim miyad, but it's still on the table for you to try to crack the code of the title. Here we go. Parshas Lecha concludes with the Milah of Avram Avinu. Parshas Vayeira begins that Hashem revealed himself to Avram Avinu. So Rashi, that we're all familiar with, explains the juxtaposition. Rashi says that now that Avram had a Milah, he was in pain. So Hashem appeared to him to be Mavaker Chayla. Rabbi Chama Bar Chanina says it was the third day of Avram Avinu's Milah, and Hashem came to ask about his welfare. So obviously the connection between Lech and Vayeira is obvious. Avram just had a Milah, so Hashem is visiting him and being Mavaker Chayla. Furthermore, it says that Hashem appeared to Avram Avinu be'Eloinei Mamre. Why Eloinei Mamre? Because Mamre gave Avram Avinu the advice about the Milah in the previous Parsha. But the truth is, if you think about it, the entire Parshas Vayeira segues from Parshas Lecha. Because let's think about it. Had Avram not had a Milah, he wouldn't have been ill. If he wouldn't have been ill, then Hashem would not have had to make it a hot day, so he shouldn't be bothered. If it wouldn't have been a hot day, then Avram Avinu would have had regular guests in his house, and there would be no need for angels. But because it was Avram had a Milah, and Hashem didn't want to bother him, and he made it a hot day, and now Avram was in pain, he couldn't have guests, so Hashem sent the angels. Once the angels are there, they said, by the way, Avram, you're going to have a kid. That's the end of the Parsha. And once they're by Avram, they said, okay, let's go destroy the Sodom. That's the middle of the Parsha. So really, the entire Vayeira is the segue, the natural segue from the Milah of Avram Avinu. Furthermore, that's number one. Number two, the Baal HaTurim says that the word Nimoilu is juxtaposed to Vayeira Elav. That teaches you that Hashem came and appeared to Avraham because of the Milah. It's not just the topics are just juxtaposed. Literally, the words are juxtaposed. Nimoilu, Vayeira of Hashem. Furthermore, Nimoilu is juxtaposed to V'hu Yoshev Pesach Ha'oil K'chay Mayom. Chazal say that Avram Avinu sits at the entrance of Gehenna, and anyone who has a Milah, he doesn't let them come in. That's the juxtaposition. Nimoilu, V'hu Yoshev Pesach Ha'oil K'chay Mayom. And anyone who has a Milah, Avram sits at the entrance of Gehenna to bail them out. Okay. And based on that, the Baal HaTurim explains 4 places where it says the word K'chaim Hayom. The Baal HaTurim continues, Chaim Hayom is Gematria Gehenim. K'chaim Hayom is Gematria Dam Milah. Vayeira Elav is Gematria B'chvoid Milah Nigla Elav. So now this is another pshat. Not just Hashem is coming to Avram to be Mavaker Chayla. Now that Avraham had the Milah, in honor of the Milah, Hashem is revealing himself to Avraham Avinu. So again, that's the connection between the Parshas Lech Lecha and Vayeira. Now, the Arachaim HaKadosh also offers us insight into the juxtaposition of the Parshas as follows. Says the Arachaim HaKadosh, a very important question. Vayeira Elav Hashem. It's backward. It should say Vayeira Hashem Elav. It should first say the person who is being revealed, and then speak about who they are being revealed to. It always says, Vayeira Hashem el Avram lezaracha. Vayeira Hashem ani kel shakai. It always says Vayeira Hashem. Why over here is this Vayeira Elav Hashem? Why here first talk about Avram and then Hashem? So the Archaim HaKadosh says in the second shot that there's an idea that the bris milah, the cut, the incision of the bris, makes a mark on the body. It puts the name of Hashem on the body. The yud of the milah, the cut of the milah is like a yud that represents the Shem of Hashem. So says Archaim HaKadosh, the way we read it is Vayeira Elav. It appeared to Avram. What appeared to Avram? The Shem Hashem on his body. Not that God appeared to Avram. The name of God now appeared on the body of Avraham Avinu. Now, according to that, the juxtaposition is obvious. Nimoilu itai, Avram had a milah, and through the milah, Vayeira Elav, the Shem Hashem on his body. Okay. Similarly, there's a sefer called Doiresh Semuchim, and he also says that through the milah, the Shem Havaya appears on the body. He explains the two hands are two yuds. How's that? Each hand has 5 fingers. Basically, the two hands are the two heys of the Shem Havaya, okay? Each hand is a hey. The body is a vav, and the atara of the bris is a yud. Al pi Kabbalah, the milah completes the 4 letters of the Shem Havaya on the human body. So now we understand. Nimoilu itai, through the milah, Vayeira Elav Hashem. It became apparent to the eyes of Avraham the Shem Havaya on his body. Okay. Then there's a sefer called Vayikach Yaakov Even of Rabbi Yaakov Kari. He says something very nice. He quotes from the sefer of Rav Koziva. It's called Lechem Lefi Hataf. The Rambam says in Mar Nevuchim, the purpose of milah is it diminishes the taiva of relations, because the arla increases the taiva. Now, Avram Avinu was the first one commanded in this mitzvah. Why? What happened until there? Because Avram is the first person that Hashem resides his Shechina on and designates his name on and says Alekei Avraham. Hashem never did that before. And therefore, wherever there is a Makam Kedusha, you need a Geder Erva. So therefore, Avram Avinu was the first one commanded in milah, because he needed to be the first, because he was the most designated to receive and behold the presence of Hashem. That's why Avram Avinu was nitztav in the milah. This explains why Avram was the first person in history to be commanded in milah. So the sefer says that's the juxtaposition of the Parshas. Be'etzem hayoim hazeh nimal Avraham. First Avraham, and then the rest of his family. Why Avraham and not other tzaddikim? You know why? Because Vayeira Elav Hashem. The reason why Avraham was commanded in the milah more than anyone else is because Hashem needed to appear to him. And therefore, since he was going to be the Makayim of Hashras Hashchina, therefore, he needed to display a Geder from Arayos. Okay, now, we mentioned that the Baal Shevet Musa, Rabbi Yehuda HaNasi, wrote a sefer, and in this sefer called Semuchim La'ad, he connects the Parshas, the end of one Parsha to the beginning of the next. And I always put it on the sheets. However, we don't always read it in sign. But one explanation I want to share with you, it's very beautiful. First of all, he says slightly different. We know that when it came to Bilam, when Hashem appeared to Bilam, Bilam just collapsed. Bilam did not have the spiritual standing to be able to behold the countenance of Hashem. Why? Because he was an Ara Lev. He had an Arla. So the juxtaposition is, now that Avram is Nimailu Itai, Vayeira Elav Hashem, and Avram Avinu could behold the countenance of the Shechina without collapsing like Bilam, because Avram Avinu had a Milah. Now the following idea, this is Gavaldik. One thing we know is Ein Hashchina Shaira Ella Mitoich Simcha. The Shechina could only reside if somebody is in a state of joy. So I have a question. Avram Avinu just had a major operation. He had major surgery. And he didn't do this as 8 days old. He did it at 99 years old. Usually, a milah is pretty painful, even for a young person, let alone an old man like Avram Avinu. You would think that maybe after the milah, Avram must have been a little groggy. He might have been a little irritable. Maybe he was not in the best mood. Look at this! On the third day of the milah, the most painful day, Hashem only appears to somebody mitoich simcha. The Torah juxtaposes the appearance of Hashem to Avram to his third day of Milah to demonstrate the greatness of Avraham. That you would have expected maybe he had some regret about the Milah, maybe he was saddened by the Milah. No, look at the great joy of Avraham Avinu. Then the third day of his Milah, Vayeira Elav Hashem Be'eloinei Mamre. That's a beautiful connection between the end of Lecha. It's to teach the greatness of Avram Avinu that he did the Milah B'simcha Uva Tov Lev.
Recording stopped.